All right, folks, welcome to week 9's Collaborate session. I hope everybody had a good spring break. I know I certainly did. All right, so this week we're going to be talking about incorporating sources and citation. Okay, just like last week, here's the brief rundown. We're going to go through the slides quickly, let you know what's going on in these slides, give you an idea of some sources that you can find more information on them. Excuse me, I have a bit of frog in my throat. And then we'll open up for some questions. We'll talk briefly about what's coming up this week, which is the end of this week. You should be turning in your evaluations. And we'll talk briefly about what's coming next week, because next week is going to be a bit of a marathon. All right. All right. So looking at incorporating sources and citation this week. Okay. All right. So once the writing process starts in earnest on the first draft, it becomes important to decide how research information is utilized. Okay, there's going to be some things some elements influencing the use of research, how you use it. Okay, if it's used for informational use, that is to integrate data and information without a stance, or if it's used for persuasive purposes, where you're agreeing or disagreeing with your stance. Okay, it's all going to depend on how you're using it. It's going to influence how you go about doing your research. Ultimately, it's going to be your own argument which dictates how research information is going to be used in your final project. All right. So each manner of integrating information from a research source has its own time and place in your work. However, regardless of which you use, the source must be cited. Okay. We're talking primarily here about summary, paraphrase, and quotation. So when you're using summary, you're condensing the argument by keeping the main ideas intact. When do you use this? Well, use this when the source's whole argument is relevant. You use this when the source's view is an alternative or opposite one to yours. Or you use it when the source's argument supports yours. Okay. Summary is primarily used as a means of getting to the meat of somebody's argument, to understand what the underlying argument is underneath all of the details that are presented around it. If you're using paraphrase, you're going to reproduce an idea from a source, but translate the information into your own words. Okay, that can be hard for some people to handle. Use this when you want to incorporate factual information or one specific idea from a source. Okay. So when you want to get an idea and you want to have it in a way that's clear like the original author did, you want to use paraphrase to try to translate that author's words into your own. Okay? Use this when the source passage is too complex or technical. Okay? If you'd rather quote it, but it's got a lot of terminology in it or slang or stuff that's going to be kind of a mystery to your audience, then you probably go and put it into language that your audience can understand. Also use it when you want to integrate a source's information without breaking the flow of the writing. So that is, say, using your own language. Okay? So paraphrasing is going to be very useful for maintaining the flow of your own writing. Okay? We have using short quotation, working brief quotes from the source smoothly into the grammar of your own sentences. Okay? So what you mainly use this for is when you need testimony from an authority. Okay? If you need a quote that's going to sound authoritative from someone who is trusted. You want to use this when you want to reproduce source's voice in a summary. So summaries can integrate parts of these. So in this case, you're integrating part of a quotation into a summary. Okay. Also use it when the source language is memorable. Okay. If they say something very specific that you feel like, oh wow, there's no way I can top this in my own language, then yeah, for sure you can quote. Okay. Using long quotations, which would be creating a block quote. Okay. This can offset from the rest of the text to show that's a quotation. How do you use this? When do you use this? Well, you use it when you tend to analyze or criticize a quotation, or in which case you'd be following the quote with your own analysis of the quote and what you think it means. Okay? Also used when the flavor and language of testimony is important. Okay? If the way they put it forth is important, just as important as the information that they're putting forth, then you might want to consider a block quote. All right? Now let's talk about summary, paraphrase, and quotation, actually writing it. Okay? When you're writing summary, it needs to be as concise as possible to prevent distraction from your own argument. Summaries can be as short as a sentence, but for the purposes of the assignment you're doing right now for the antibibliography, I do want slightly longer summaries so that I can get the feeling that you have fully read the articles and understand what they're about, okay? Because keep in mind, another element of an anti-bib is that you have to evaluate those sources based on whether they are usable for your own research question or not. We have writing a paraphrase. You rewrite the passage in your own words using your own style. Avoid any wordings that sound too similar or exactly like the original source. Okay, you cannot just have a thesaurus puke on the original source and just change up synonyms. Okay, that's not going to count as a paraphrase. That's going to count as a patch write. Okay, that's plagiarism. So you don't want to do that. Okay. Avoid slipping in unchanged passages from the original because that will also be plagiarism. Okay. One thing to try with this is to write the paraphrase twice to avoid patch writing and fully integrate the information into your own voice. That would actually be the best way to avoid plagiarism when you're writing a paraphrase. Now, there are several accepted grammatical techniques for quoting. Okay. Some of the elements you have to think about for quoting complete sentences. Include a signal tag to show who's being quoted. Okay. Select the page number if possible after the quote in parentheses. So if you need to. Also cite citation outside the end quote and punctuation after the citation. Not too worried about that right now. I will get into that in a couple weeks when we actually talk about citation and works cited. Okay. Quoting words and phrases. Insert the words or phrases into the sentence using proper grammatical rules. Do not separate the quote with commas. Okay, you want to continue the flow of the writing. Cite the page number at the end of the sentence containing the quotes. If you need to modify a quotation to fit the grammatical format, if it doesn't match the flow, you're going to need to use a modified version of the quote. Insert your changes to the quote in brackets so that we know those are where it changed. It's usually done for clarifying pronouns or verb tenses. Okay. If you're omitting something from a quoted passage, use an ellipsis to indicate that something has been taken out to try to shorten the quote so that it fits better within your text. Okay. More modern works use an ellipsis in brackets, but either way you can do it, however you feel comfortable with. Okay. If you have quotes containing quotes, use standard quotation marks for the main quotation and use single mark quotation marks for the quote within a quote. Okay. If you find yourself using block quotes, you're using that for block quote format for quotes that take up 4 or more lines in your own essay. If they're going to be really long and dominate a paragraph, you want to make it into a block quote. Indent the block quote on one tab space further than your regular paragraphs. Okay, so if you're using one tab to the start of your paragraphs, go 2 tabs to start a block quote. Some textbooks show using an indent on the first line. Most block quotes do not indent the first line further than the rest of the quote. So you indent it twice and everything stays indented twice. Every line should be indented twice from the margin. Let's talk about source attribution now. Use attribute tags to show sources of research information. Now, this is easier to do with quotations than it is with other forms of research integration. Okay. All right, I apologize for that. I accidentally got disconnected here. Okay, so attributive tags to show sources of research information. You're using signal phrases to try to show who is attributed to that quote. Okay. The author's name can be included also in parenthetical citations, which is the MLA standard. Okay. Again, we'll talk about that in a couple weeks. Use attributive tags to show where source material begins and ends. So you need to signal as often as necessary. Sometimes as often as the start of each sentence, integrating research information. So let us know where all your information is coming from. Use a tag at the start. Use attributive tags to frame the source material in a rhetorical sense. This shows evaluation of the source to enhance the reader's critical reading. Okay, so you're going to be spending a lot of time here looking over these tags and allowing the reader to decide for themselves whether they should be believing what's being written there or not. Okay, it enhances critical reading. All right. Plagiarism and academic fraud. Plagiarism is a pertinent problem not only in academia, but in the professional world as well. It is up to you to be vigilant to prevent yourself from falling into the traps. Okay, I'm not going to get into it right now, but if you go to the video lecture, I do tell you the story of Kavya Viswanathan, okay, and her novel that wound up being mostly plagiarized from approximately 10 other sources. Right, most plagiarism occurs unwittingly. Okay, where you have passages copied directly from sources without any indication of being quoted, where you have patch rights that are used for paraphrases, or most commonly failure to indicate the source of ideas or data integrated into their own words. Okay, if you had include anything that you did not immediately produce in terms of research, then you need to cite where you got it from. Okay. Less often do you find people committing conscious plagiarism, which is for sure academic fraud. This is like things like turning in paper mill essays. This is copying another student's essay. I will say I've had the unusual circumstance where I had a student who plagiarized himself and basically submitted to me in 2 different semesters the same essay about a youth soccer tournament. All he did was change the team names. It was kind of a limp attempt, okay? So it's also have works that copy chunks of text from sources without attribution. And the worst type is essays that fabricate data, okay? Because you didn't do the research, you're just pulling numbers out of your butt, okay? So let's talk about strategies to avoid plagiarism, all right? At the start of any assignment, read the class policy on plagiarism, okay? If there is one, okay? Pose a research question rather than a topic area because that allows you to be more focused when you're doing your research. You're looking for stuff that matches up with your research question as opposed to just general information from that topic area. When you're at the note-taking stage, create a bibliographic entry for each source, okay? Make sure you're writing down who wrote it, what the title of the work is, what the larger work is, when it was published, okay, where it was published. Copy passages into your journal word for word and include quotation marks. Make sure that you're actually doing the writing, not using photocopies, okay? This allows you to remember that this is stuff that you're getting from other sources. Avoid patch writing and summaries or paraphrases. We just talked about that. Distinguish informational notes from personal exploratory notes. Okay. I think we talked briefly about this, making 3 columns where you have one column with bibliographical information, 1 column with informational notes that are the stuff from the source, and the 3rd column is your own notes on whether they're useful or not. When you go to write the draft, write entirely in your own words with the sole exception of quotations. Okay, make sure it's your own language, it's your own manner of speech. Okay, indicate all quotations properly. Okay, we talked briefly about all the grammatical issues that take place with quotations. Make sure you have signal phrases, make sure they're cited properly. Avoid patch writing when summarizing or paraphrasing. Again, we talked about that. Never cut and paste website passages directly into a draft. That's because there's certain websites that do plagiarism prevention by forcing the formatting to go along with the text. Okay. Use attributive tags and parenthetical citations within your paper. Okay. Make sure everything is cited. Cite all quotations, paraphrases, summaries, and any other references to other sources. Okay. Use in-text citations for all visuals. Okay. Any visuals that you did not generate yourself, you need to create an in-text citation for. Also use in-text citations for all ideas and facts that are not common knowledge. Okay. That's your big rule of thumb there. All right. What needs citation? Writers question all the time when citations are necessary in context with their work. As a general rule, any information that is not common knowledge should be cited. Okay. This includes quotations, paraphrase passages, summarized passages or otherwise referred to passages, any image, diagram, chart, or table if you did not generate it yourself, any sound or video file used in the multimedia project. That's even if you generated it yourself, you should still give yourself the proper credit for it. Basically, any idea, concept, or fact found from a source that is not common knowledge has to be cited. Citations are intended to work directly with works cited pages in formal academic essays. The citations give a quick reference to the source, which can be used as a roadmap of sorts to the works cited page. Okay, so once you see that citation, you go back to works cited and say, oh, that's where they got that from. Let me check out that original source. Okay. The works cited page is directly referenced by the citations. There is information from the citations which is obviously found in works cited listings, such as author names, possibly shortened titles, and page numbers. Okay, it's supposed to direct you to the works cited. Now, I did see on the first essay there were a lot of people who included numerous sources in their works cited page and only cited maybe 3. Okay, at most. I had to see one that cited 1 source and had a list of 9. Okay. Anything that you get from any of those sources has to have a citation within the text. There is no getting around it. Okay. In MLA Style, quick reference, you have a MLA Style standard book that comes with the text, packaged with the textbook. Okay. So, it would be 2019 was the last time they changed MLA Style standards. Okay. But I can always direct students to Purdue OWL because it will have the most recent changes, including ones that are decided upon between printings of the style guide. Okay. So Purdue OWL online writing lab site is owl.english.purdue.edu. It's right here on this slide. All right, MLA formatting rules include not only works cited pages and citations, but it also includes general layout standards for essays. This includes things like spacing, pagination, author identification, so on and so forth. So it's thoroughly useful to a collegiate writer. I would strongly recommend you bookmark this site because it's going to be handy for your entire academic career. Again, owl.english.purdue.edu. Okay? Now, we're getting into the nitty-gritty of the actual anti-bibliography assignment. As a team, you will be coordinating with each other to construct an anti-bibliography of the types usually called for in postgrad work. Okay? I've already had people talking about having trouble keeping in touch with their teams. All right? Let me emphasize this as best as I can. If you're non-communicative with your current team, you're going to have to probably form a new one for this assignment. Okay? And you're going to have to be able to keep in touch with them because you guys have to collaborate together on this. Anti-bibliographies are useful for writers in that they provide a brief summary of the research source and its use within the paper in question. Annotations under each listing also give an evaluation based on the author's needs as to how reliable or useful a resource is. So, let me just explain this assignment very carefully and very clearly so we're all on the same page here. Okay? Your team is going to create a resource list. Okay, each member is going to contribute at least 2 sources. Okay, 2 research sources to the entire group. It's going to be everyone's responsibility to check out those sources, read through them, and then put them into an antibibliography of your own writing. Okay, that is to say, everyone is going to be working with the same general topic, but you'll be working with different research questions because you're going to come up with your own research question within that general topic. Okay, so this is not going to be a collective anti-bib that you're going to be turning in. Everyone's going to be turning in their own. All right. So, requirements for this assignment: you will choose a topic from current events in the news. You're going to have to do it as a group so that you all agree on what topic you're going to work with. Collaborate on finding resources on that topic. Okay. Each one of you will have to come up with your own research question within that topic to focus your resource search. Okay. Collaboration is required for this assignment to work. Utilize the discussion board to coordinate during the week with the rest of your team. If you have contact with your teammates outside of eCampus, collaborate there as well. If you've got social media contacts, if you have email contacts, any kind of contact you have with your teammates, use them. Okay? You guys need to work together to collect your sources, and then you guys gotta write your own individual annotated bibs. Okay? The formatting requirements for this assignment will be MLA format for the bibliographical information. And we're going to talk about that also in a couple weeks, get more in depth on that. But you can look at Purdue OWL and it will have the standards if you want to get ahead on this. Okay. Alphabetical order based on the beginning of each listing. Follow MLA protocol for multiple sources from the same author. Okay. The MLA style guide also tells you how to handle alphabetical order as well. Okay. 11 to 12 point font, Times New Roman, Arial or Calibri, double spaced, hanging indents used for the bibliographical listings. Annotations should have no indentations at all. Okay. This assignment is due April 16th. Okay. It's cutting it close for the end of the semester because we also have that proposal essay that you guys are going to do for this semester. So this assignment is going to act as the research basis for your proposal argument essay, trying to lead into the next essay. As you're gathering your research sources, focus your attention toward making a proposal for change. Okay? So, when you're composing your research question, think about a research question that lends itself to a proposal for some kind of change. Okay? It could be like a big societal problem. It could be a small neighborhood problem. Whatever you need to figure out. Okay? Whatever you need to come up with for a research question that leads to a proposal. That's what we want here. Okay? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and open this up for 6 minutes worth of questions. And then we're going to move on to other business here, including what's coming up this week and what to expect next week. Okay, so go ahead and if you have questions, raise your hand. I'll pick you out and we'll talk it over. All right. All right. So unless you're including anything additional in your evaluation other than just the movie that you're evaluating, you should not have to cite anything. Okay. Evaluation is topic of your choice as long as it's something that you have experience with. Okay. I gave the example of if it's a movie, TV show, or a book or whatever, you'd have to have gone through the story at least twice. Okay. As far as examples, it's all the ones I've given you in the lectures. It would be the movie reviews and the series of evaluations that we did in, I believe, week 7. Don't quote me on that, though. I have to double check. In fact, let me do that real quick. Let's see. Yeah, it was week 7. When we had the evaluations, Six Flags Great Adventure, the Contradictions, Steven Universe, and the 2 by Armand White. Okay, so, all right. I need to clarify here. This next one that you're doing, the team workup, is not an essay. It is an annotated bibliography. It's not an essay itself. It is basically just a list of sources with summaries under each one to say whether they would be useful for you for the next essay. Okay? The research question you're using is going to be the basis for the next essay, which is the proposal essay. Okay? Yes, you do write your own annotated bibs and your own proposals. Okay? So what you're actually just going to be doing is doing the research part for this next project. You're presenting the sources, and then you're evaluating reading them and evaluating the sources, so that whether you can use them or not for your own proposal. Evaluation is the same length as every other essay. It's going to be 3 to 5 pages. You don't have to agree on them. In fact, I would encourage you, if your team brings you a source that you absolutely cannot use, say so in your annotated bib. Okay. Uh, Not everybody's going to find the right sources for everybody. That's the whole point of this, is that you're trying to collaborate as best as you can. And you're going to be evaluating how useful those sources are going to be for you. Not everything's going to be 100% useful. So if your team comes up with maybe one source that is completely out of left field and does not match up with your uh, research question, you can just simply summarize the article and say, this has no relevance to my research question, so I cannot use it. That's going to be your evaluation of it. Yeah, your team's going to have these. Everyone in the team is going to work with the same general topic, but each one of you is going to have your own individual research question within that topic. Okay, but based on the topic and your research question, you're going to find sources. Okay. Yes, for the evaluation, I do want you to turn in your criteria as a separate page. All right, so let's talk briefly about the evaluative argument assignment, okay? All right, so this is the assignment that is due this week. I've already had people asking why they couldn't turn it in 2 weeks ago. The reason is because you're still supposed to be workshopping it, okay? That link opens up tomorrow. It actually opens up at midnight, okay? So if you have properly workshopped this essay and you're ready to turn it in, you can turn it in tomorrow, okay? The due date of it is Friday. Now, I do want you guys to be working on workshopping it this week. This week is for proofreading and editing on this particular essay, okay? So you should be looking at polish, should be looking at what needs to be fixed as far as grammar goes, spelling, mechanics, that sort of thing. Essays should be 90% complete by the time you submit them to your groups, by the time you submit them to your teams for your workshop session, okay? Thursday, the link goes live, and then you can turn it in. Friday is the ultimate due date, okay? Just remember that you need to have it included with the evaluation. In addition to all your drafts, I also need a separate page with your list of criteria of how you're evaluating your subject, okay? It's at when the link opens up, it'll tell you exactly what I want turned in. That is included with it. Okay. Also, again, if you're doing this right, you should not need a works cited page. Okay. Your evaluation should only have a single research source, which is the evaluation subject. Okay. However, if you wind up having to do further research in order to properly evaluate your subject, then you will need works cited and citations in the essay. Okay? So that takes care of that. All right, one other thing I want to talk about is next week, because I want to apologize in advance. Next week's lecture is going to be a marathon, okay? I am just real briefly going to take a look at the video. It's always the longest video of the semester, as far as I've seen. It auto-played it. Why did it do that? Okay. So you're going to need to settle in for this one because next week's lecture video is just short of 2 hours and 40 minutes long. Okay. But there is a lot of stuff that we need to cover in it because it deals, the bulk of it is going to be dealing with evaluating sources and reliability of sources. Okay. That's going to be important for the antibibliography. The other half of the other 1/3 of it is going to be the introduction to the final exam topic. Okay. It's actually going to be going over what the final exam topic will be and going over the exam packet that will be made available to you starting next week. Okay. It will unlock under the final exam tab on eCampus. Okay. In fact, let me just double check, make sure that I've got this scheduled right. Yes, it'll be available after March 28th. Okay. So Monday at midnight, the study packet will open up. It will unlock and you will be able to download it. It's a Word file that's 39 pages long. Okay. And I will explain this in the lecture just as a reminder. Okay. But you are allowed to use this packet when you take the exam because the exam is not going to be about how well you memorize the material in it. It's going to be about how well you express an opinion based on that information. So the contents of the packet and anything you add to it you are going to be allowed to use when you take the exam. Okay? So there will be some discussion of this stuff in the lecture. There will also be some discussion of it in the Collaborate session next week. Okay. the next time we talk about the final exam, it will be looking over a specific part of the packet. One thing I give you in the packet is the possible exam questions. Okay. So from the questions I give you, you're going to be given 2 of them, and of those 2, you're going to choose one in order to answer. Okay. So I give you all of them so that you can practice writing the essay under a time crunch and being able to look through and find the information you need. Okay? So that's just a brief introduction to what you can expect next week. We'll do some more questions here. Let's go about 8 more minutes here until about 1:45, and then I'll cut you guys loose. Okay? So if anybody has any more questions or new questions brought up because of what we just talked about, go ahead and raise your hand. Let me see you, and I will try to answer the best I can. Final exam is a timed exam. Most students are going to have an hour and 50 minutes to complete it. I can tell you that in general, most students can complete it within 45.
Give me some fresh water.
Then, Akade, did she call? No, I'm just, I think that could avoid you lecture. I'll stand with the vodka, you think it. I saw some very dope in Dinto, Chirukara. You think so?
Okay, no. Final exam's topic is going to be based on the exam packet that you're going to be downloading on Monday. Okay, it does not have anything cumulative to do with the class. The only thing that's cumulative in regards to that final exam is how skilled you are at expressing your response to the question you choose. Okay. The entire class has been basically about learning how to write and how to express yourself. So this is going to be your test on how to express it in a time crunch with a topic that you're going to be given, and you'll have a decent amount of time to brush up on, but it's not something that you've spent an extended amount of time with. Okay, criteria list for the evaluation just needs to have whatever standards you're using to rate your evaluation topic, or rather the subject of your evaluation, whatever it is you're evaluating. Okay, if whatever criteria you've used to determine quality of your evaluation subject. Criteria can be bullet points because it's not really part of the essay. It's basically, I actually would consider it part of your initial drafting. Okay. I just want to know that you're actually using criteria rather than just spewing an opinion on why something is good or why something sucks. There has to be like a logical reason why. Okay. Well, I don't really have a good criteria list to use as an example. The best thing I would suggest is to go to one of the sample evaluations that I gave you. Okay. The one that had the best possible criteria was actually the review of Six Flags Great Adventure. But I will say the best list I can think of uh, was a film reviewer who years ago did a review of the movie Quantum of Solace. Okay, and their criteria for that review was basically what is expected from a James Bond film, and he actually had an annotated list of what he expects out of a James Bond film. So it was things like it was gadgets, uh, action, romance, uh, witty banter, well written dialogue, and uh, the villain was part of his criteria. The villain had to be interesting, and way he rated. Oh, and also the song. Okay, the way he rated Quantum of Solace, he didn't feel that it met all of his criteria because, yeah, it was decent on the action, it's decent on the romance, had a pretty decent song, uh, but the villain was boring. There weren't any gadgets per se, and oh yeah, the dialogue was kind of more modern, more more like a modern action movie dialogue than a Bond movie. Okay, Bond is supposed to be like quick-witted. He's supposed to be very charismatic. He's uh, supposed to have kind of a humorous turn of phrase, and really, if you watch any of the Daniel Craig James Bond movies, they tend to be a little more gritty than the older ones, and he's not quite as witty. Yeah, it doesn't have to be too complex. It's basically what you need to have present in the subject in order to judge it of a good quality. All right, folks. So we'll go ahead and cut you guys loose for now. So again, keep an eye out next week. The long lecture is going to be coming out. Slides will be available on Sunday as usual. On Monday, the lecture and the exam packet will be made available on eCampus. So there will also be a link on eCampus that will, if you want to go back to the exam stuff for reference in the lecture, there will be a direct link that goes just to the exam overview. Okay, and I will have another session like this next week. So thanks for coming by, and I will see you guys next week.